On April 8, 1943, at 27,000 feet above Conques, France, the oxygen mask couldn't conceal the grin of lead pilot Ralph Hermican as he watched the awkward shapes struggling to climb toward his formation through the crystal-clear canopy of his Focke-Wulf 190A5 aircraft. The 26-year-old ace veteran from Jeshwater was examining the American fighters, making their combat debut over occupied Europe. "The U.S. Army has sent us flying milk jugs," he radioed to his wingman, unable to hold back laughter at the sight of the massive Republic P-47 Thunderbolts laboring upward. Below them, 16 P-47C Thunderbolts from the 4th Fighter Group ascended in tight order. Their twin-row Pratt and Whitney are 2,800 Wasp engines, each delivering 2,000 horsepower, straining against the 7-ton bulk. To German pilots accustomed to sleek Spitfires and agile Soviet fighters, these bulky American machines appeared almost ridiculous. Barrel-shaped bodies topped with greenhouse-like cockpits, wings that seemed undersized for their hefty frames, propellers that dwarfed anything in the Luftwaffe's inventory. What Hermican didn't know, what none of the German aviators circling like predators could imagine, was that they were witnessing the arrival of a weapon destined to methodically dismantle the Luftwaffe's fighter arm within 18 months. These flying milk jugs evolved from objects of ridicule into instruments of dread, their .50 caliber Browning machine guns becoming the most terrifying noise in German skies. The equation of devastation was already embedded in those broad wings. An ammunition load of 3,400 rounds, firing at 6,000 shots per minute, enough concentrated firepower to shred a crowd in under 2 seconds. The shift began that April morning when Major Donald Blakesley, commander of the 335th Fighter Squadron, spotted the German formation poised for attack. A former Eagle Squadron veteran, transferred just weeks earlier from Royal Air Force Spitfires, understood what his subordinates didn't yet grasp. To survive in the P-47, they had to abandon everything they thought they knew about dogfighting. The Thunderbolt marked a radical departure from conventional fighter design philosophy, while Germans pursued lightweight interceptors optimized for climb rate and turns. Republic Aviation engineered something unprecedented, a high-altitude behemoth that, leveraging mass, power, and armament, redefined aerial combat rules. Among the 56 American pilots patrolling French airspace that morning were men fated to become legends, future aces whose names would instill fear in Luftwaffe hearts. But on April 8, 1943, they were rookies in an unproven machine facing the world's most seasoned fighters. The Germans had been battling non-stop since 1939, veterans of Poland, France, Britain, and Russia. The Americans had 0 days in combat. This tale is about how industrial logic triumphed over tactical expertise, how quantity and quality merged into overwhelming dominance, and how German pilots' laughter turned to horror upon discovering what synchronized Browning guns could do to an aircraft at 400 yards. The Republic P-47 Thunderbolt arose from the June 1940 panic. As German fighters overran France, Alexander Kartveli, Republic Aviation's chief designer from Georgia, received urgent specifications from the U.S. Army Air Corps. They needed a high-altitude interceptor to rival the Luftwaffe's finest. Instead, Kartveli crafted a monster that reimagined possibilities. "This will be a dinosaur," he told his design team, but a well-proportioned one. The XP-47B prototype, first flying on May 6, 1941, stunned observers. At 9,900 pounds empty, it weighed 65% more than its predecessor. The P-43 Lancer, a massive turbocharger system with intricate ducting running through the rear fuselage, gave it an almost swollen appearance. Test pilots approaching it for the first time always asked the same question: does this thing actually fly? It didn't just fly. It performed like nothing else at altitude. The Pratt and Whitney RT-800 Double Wasp, an 18-cylinder radial engine producing 2,000 horsepower, maintained full output at 27,000 feet 8,100 meters, where German fighters gasped for air. The exhaust-driven turbocharger delivered sea-level performance in the stratosphere, where thin atmosphere defeated standard superchargers. Major Hubert Zemke, commanding the 56th Fighter Group training in Bridgeport, Connecticut, initially despised the plane. His unit lost 18 pilots and 41 aircraft in training accidents from September 1942 to January 1943. More Americans died learning the P-47 than Germans in early combat months. The aircraft ground-looped on landing, torque twisted it on takeoff, and it dove with such enthusiasm that pilots found controls freezing as shockwave, yet those who mastered it discovered something extraordinary. Lieutenant Robert Johnson, an Oklahoma farmer turned one of America's top aces with 27 victories, described his first flight. It felt like strapping onto a locomotive. The power was overwhelming. You didn't fly it. You aimed it. Initial combat clashes in April and May 1943 confirmed German prejudices. P-47s couldn't turn with Focke-Wulf 190s, couldn't climb like Messerschmitt 109s, couldn't match maneuverability at medium altitudes. Luftwaffe pilots quickly devised tactics exploiting these flaws, attacking from below where heavy Thunderbolts struggled, forcing turning fights where agility trumped firepower. Hauptmann Joseph Priller, commander of Jag Water 26, reported to headquarters after his first encounter, "The new American fighter is easy prey. It flies like a truck, turns like a freight train, and climbs like a laden cow. Our boys call them juggernauts, fat targets pretending to be warriors." Statistics seemed to back German confidence. In the first month of operations, American fighter groups lost 14 Thunderbolts while downing just 3 confirmed German planes. Royal Air Force observers from Spitfire squadrons quietly suggested Americans reconsider their gear. British pilots joked that the best evasion maneuver in a P-47 was to unstrap and run around the spacious cockpit. But amid these early skirmishes, something odd escaped German intelligence notice. Downed P-47s absorbed astonishing punishment before falling. One returned from a May 4th mission with 21 cannon holes and over 100 machine gun hits, damage that would splinter a Messerschmitt or Spitfire. The rugged radial engine, lacking vulnerable liquid cooling, shrug-off hits that would halt inline-powered fighters. More crucially, when P-47s landed cannon shells on target, results were catastrophic. A Thunderbolt's battery created a kill zone unlike anything German pilots faced. Unlike early war rifle caliber guns or cannons with limited ammo, the American fighter sustained fire for over 30 seconds, an eternity in aerial duels. The event that shifted German perceptions occurred on June 26, 1943, over Dieppe, France. It involved the second-from-left pilot in the 61st Fighter Squadron, Robert S. Johnson, and became legendary on both sides. Johnson's group of 48 P-47s was returning from escort when ambushed by 16 Focke-Wulf 190s from II. JG-26 led by Oberleutnant Wilhelm Ferdinand Galland, younger brother of famed Adolf Galland. The Germans executed a perfect dive from the sun with overwhelming speed advantage. Johnson's Thunderbolt, trailing the formation, took devastating hits in the opening seconds. 20mm shells exploded across his plane. The canopy shattered, hydraulic fluid sprayed the cockpit. The engine cowling tore away, and fire erupted behind the instrument panel. Johnson, wounded by shrapnel in his nose and leg, tried to bail out but found the canopy jammed. A 20mm round had fused the track. Trapped in a dying aircraft at 27,000 feet, what followed defied assumptions about battle damage limits. Despite zero forward visibility through oil-smeared windshield, a shuddering engine barely running, and sluggish controls, Johnson leveled out and pointed toward England. The P-47 soldiered on with wounds that would doom any other fighter. Then it worsened. A lone Focke-Wulf 190, piloted by an unidentified flyer from Tapurjuga 26, spotted the crippled Thunderbolt limping toward the channel at under 170 miles per hour. Historical research never pinpointed this pilot. Though German logs suggest candidates, what ensued was one of aerial warfare's most bizarre encounters. The German positioned astern of Johnson's P-47 and unleashed his 20mm cannons and twin 13mm machine guns. Unable to evade, Johnson could only hunker behind armor plating and endure. The Thunderbolt soaked up the full cannon load. The German repositioned and fired again, now with machine guns. Ammo exhausted, the pilot pulled alongside, staring incredulously at the flying wreck. Johnson clearly saw his face, young, fair-haired shifting from confidence to confusion, then near-dash panic. The German regrouped and emptied remaining machine gun belts into the Thunderbolt. Still, it flew on. He approached once more, shook his head in evident astonishment, saluted, and peeled away, likely out of rounds. Johnson's P-47 touched down at Manston with the engine quitting on the runway. Ground crew stopped counting bullet holes at 200. One shell detonated inches from Johnson's head. Another exploded against the seatback armor. The engine took direct strikes. Control cables were partially severed. 3 of 4 main fuselage spars were shot through. Yet the plane brought him home. Johnson's survival shocked air forces on both sides. American engineers examining the wreckage realized they'd underestimated their creation. German intelligence, reviewing reports from JG-26, initially dismissed them as exaggeration. No aircraft could endure such battering, but multiple pilot accounts confirmed the impossible. The Thunderbolt withstood atop Luftwaffe fighters' best and lived. By July 1943, American pilots learned to harness the P-47's true strengths through brutal trial and error. Lieutenant Colonel Hubert Zemke unlocked the secret: don't mix it up with them, don't climb with them low. Use your mass, use your thrust, use your guns. The Thunderbolt's immense weight, once a curse, became a weapon. In dives, nothing caught it. From 30,000 feet 9,000 meters, a P-47 hit 500 miles per hour, faster than any German fighter. Even vertically, that velocity converted to altitude, zooming upward and leaving pursuers exposed. Captain Walker Bud Mahurin, an early American ace in Europe, pioneered boom and zoom tactics, though pilots dubbed it turkey shoot at lightning pace instead of classic dogfights. P-47 formations loitered at 30,000 feet. Beyond effective German fighter reach when Luftwaffe interceptors appeared below. Thunderbolts rolled inverted and dove, achieving speeds that made defensive jinking impossible for Germans. At dive's end, American heavy machine guns spoke. Surviving German flyers likened it to hitting a lead barrier. Combined firepower formed an impenetrable death curtain. Planes caught in convergence didn't just drop, they disintegrated. American firepower's true display came during the dual Schweinfurt-Regensburg raids on August 17, 1943, the deepest German penetration yet. This mission highlighted P-47 limitations like range, even with drop tanks, and its terrifying potency when applied right. Major Dave Schilling, leading the 62nd Fighter Squadron, encountered Messerschmitt 110s preparing to assail B-17s with heavy cannons and rockets. These twin-engine German destroyer aircraft, heavily armed but sluggish, specialized in bomber kills. Schilling's 4 Thunderbolt flight dove from 28,000 feet. Unteroffizier Heinrich Roth, gunner on a surviving Me-110, later described it during interrogation. American fighters hammered down like hammers from above. I fired at 800 meters. Solid hits. I saw them strike a fighter's wing. The P-47 didn't flinch. Then it returned fire. The plane ahead simply came apart, not downed but obliterated. Wings sheared from body, tail ripped away, crew compartment turned to metal shreds. In 2 seconds, the 110 vanished. 8 Me-110s and 110s fell in under a minute. German pilots had never faced such focused lethality. Each P-47 carried 425 rounds per gun, totaling 3,400, weighing nearly 900 pounds. A typical 300-yard convergence, all 8 barrels' ballistic paths crossed in a roughly 6-foot diameter zone 1.8 meters. Anything that met projectiles at 100 inches per second to 150 centimeters, each traveling 2,900 feet per second, 880 meters per second. The munitions themselves showcased American industry, while German fighters struggled with scant cannon ammo, typically 120 to 220 millimeters shells. American pilots sustained fire for over half a minute. Standard loads mixed armor-piercing incendiary, tracer variants, and ball ammo. Designed for both structural breach and ignition, Lieutenant Colonel Francis Gabby Gabreski, Europe's top American ace with 28 kills, explained the effect: when all 8 connect, they don't fall, they erupt. I saw 109 sliced in half, tail one way, nose and wings another. The pilot never knew what hit. By September 1943, the Luftwaffe uncovered another chilling truth about the P-47. Its performance surged with altitude, while German fighters faltered. The double Wasp's turbo setup held rated power to 30,000 feet, 9,000 meters. German planes with single or two-stage mechanical superchargers dropped off sharply above 25,000 feet, 7,500 meters. Oberstleutnant Hans Philipp, a top German ace with 206 victories, met this reality on October 8, 1943, leading JG-1 against B-17s at 28,000 feet over Bremen. Philipp found his Focke-Wulf 190A6 sluggish and thin air. The BMW 801 engine, potent mid-level, starved for oxygen nearly 6 miles up. When P-47s from the 56th Fighter Group dove from 31,500 feet, German aircraft became sitting ducks. Robert Johnson, now a seasoned combatant nearing ace status, cruised at 31,500 feet when he spotted Philipp's distinctive nose-art Focke-Wulf. Johnson's report was clinical: opened fire at 300 yards, 30 deflection. Hits observed along fuselage. Enemy aircraft exploded. No shoots seen. Phillips death-rocked the Luftwaffe. If one of their elite, a 500 mission veteran across Eastern and Western fronts, couldn't survive Thunderbolts, what chance for average pilots? High Command ordered immediate P-47 capability probe. The November 1943 report to Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring sobered. Thunderbolt's service ceiling exceeded 42,000 feet, 12,800 meters beyond any German fighter. Dive speed neared sonic barrier. Armor included 3/8" 9 mm steel behind pilot, 1/2 inch 1.3 centimeters bulletproof windshield, and engine deflectors. Most alarming, its robust build absorbed damage that would destroy 3 standard fighters yet return home. In January 1944, a new P-47 variant arrived in England, completing the shift from joke to nightmare. The P-47D-2 featured the standard Hamilton standard hydromatic propeller with 13-foot for meters broadcore blades that bit air like giant scythes. Climb rate improved dramatically. Where earlier Thunderbolts ascended at 2,200 feet per minute at sea level, paddle blade versions hit 3,000 fpm, matching or exceeding German fighters at most altitudes. The massive prop also boosted acceleration, letting P-47s build energy faster in level flight. Hauptmann Heinz Nock from JG-11, a 200 mission veteran, met upgraded models in February 1944 during a bomber intercept near Hanover. He journaled, "The fat American fighters have learned to climb. We broke through the formation near Hanover, expecting our usual edge. They turned and climbed with us. When we tried to break away, they chased to 30,000 feet. Schmidt got caught and torn apart. Only smoke and debris remained. These aren't the machines we mocked last year." The propeller didn't just enhance performance. It altered the Thunderbolt's sound. The distinctive thunderous roar from blade tips nearing supersonic was audible miles away. German ground forces reported identifying approaching P-47s by audio alone. The deep, menacing rumble signaling doom from above earned it the nickname Thunderclap of Death. By March 1944, P-47s with external tanks escorted bombers deep into Germany. Typical setup carried to 108-gallon for 10L wing tanks or a 75-gallon to 8 for L belly tank, extending range beyond 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers. Paddle props ensured strong performance even loaded, allowing fights right after tank drop. In response, the Luftwaffe targeted bombers, hoping losses would halt American daylight campaigns, but that meant piercing P-47 escorts, increasingly suicidal. German pilots developed reluctant respect bordering on fear for these burly American fighters. Major Gunther Rall, a top ace with 275 victories, mostly Eastern Front, survived a P-47 clash on March 6, 1944, badly wounded. In a post-war interview, he recalled, "We saw them above, stout silhouettes against the sun. Someone laughed, 'Here come the flying pigs.' 30 seconds later, no one laughed. They cascaded like an avalanche, faster than we reacted. First pass destroyed 3 of ours, vanishing into flaming wreckage. Their guns didn't burst like ours. They poured continuous streams. Caught in that stream meant instant death." Escort missions revealed another P-47 edge, endurance. While German fighters maxed throttles, guzzling fuel, the big American radials cruised efficiently high up. Thunderbolts loitered with bombers for hours, relieving sections while reserving fuel for combat and return. As more P-51 Mustangs arrived for long-range escort in spring 1944, P-47 units shifted to ground attack. Becoming the Luftwaffe's most feared asset, the pivot intensified in April 1944 as Allies prepped France's invasion. Thunderbolt's heavy gun battery proved deadly against surface targets. Standard armor-piercing incendiary rounds penetrated most German vehicle tops, dense fire shredding soft targets in seconds. A dual-burst salvo delivered 160 half-inch projectiles into truck-sized areas. But bombs and rockets turned P-47 into a true multi-roley beast. The D-25 variant hauled to 1,000-pound bombs under wings and a 500-pounder center line, rivaling early war medium bombers. Later mods mounted bazooka tubes for 10 5-inch high-velocity aircraft rockets HVARS, each packing 105mm artillery punch. Oberst Hans von Luck, commanding the 125th Panzer Grenadier Regiment in Normandy, endured P-47 ground strikes firsthand. They flew low, solo. You saw pilots' faces. The noise terrified. Engine howl, rocket shriek. Then heavy machine gun chatter. Our truck column vanished. 20 vehicles turned to burning hulks in one pass. The mental toll on troops was crushing. They called them Jabos, fighter bombers. But they were more, flying artillery with sniper precision. On June 6, 1944, the Luftwaffe realized how profoundly power had shifted. Over 500 P-47s provided air umbrella for the invasion, creating an impenetrable shield over beaches. German fighters attempting beach access were annihilated. Oberleutnant Wolfgang Fischer from JG-2, one of 3 Germans reaching the landing zones that day, reported, "The sky belongs to Americans. Thunderbolts layered from sea level to 30,000 feet. We tried breaking through at dawn. 12 from our wing. I alone returned. P-47s waited at every level. Couldn't overfly them. Couldn't dive under. Their guns turned our fighters to aluminum rain." In weeks after D-Day, P-47s systematically crippled German daytime movements. The tally stunned. In June alone, 9th Air Force Thunderbolts destroyed 651 locomotives, 3,847 trucks, 512 tanks and armored vehicles, plus 4,553 horse-drawn wagons. The Wehrmacht shifted to night ops, severely hampering responses to Allied advances. Germans countered desperately, thicker vehicle armor, more flak guns, new camouflage techniques. Nothing worked. P-47's blend of speed, protection, and punch made it unstoppable. Even dreaded 88mm anti-aircraft guns struggled, tracking low-level streaks. Ravaging Europe, the P-47 simultaneously proved itself in the Pacific. The 348th Fighter Group, operating from New Guinea, found its traits perfect for vast distances and harsh jungle warfare. Colonel Neil Kirby, Group Commander, tailored Pacific tactics on October 11, 1943. Kirby led for P-47s against 40 Japanese aircraft over Woolik, downing 6 in one sortie and earning the Medal of Honor. Japanese, used to nimble but fragile American fighters, were unprepared for P-47's firepower resilience combo. Japanese ace Saburo Sakai, facing P-47s over New Guinea, later wrote, "We called them monsters. Our 20mm cannon, which shredded P-40s with few hits, seemed ineffective. I pumped dozens into one thunderbolt and watched it fly away. Their return fire horrified, heavy bullet torrents ripping planes apart." The P-47 Pacific featured wet wings holding 93 gallons 3.5 to L each. Stretching range to 2,350 miles 3,780 kilometers, this model escorted B-29s to Japan, proving the short-legged 1943 fighter had become a true long-hull weapon. Perhaps the ultimate validation of P-47 evolution came against German jets. The Messerschmitt Me 162, topping 540 miles per hour, should have been untouchable for prop planes. Yet Thunderbolt pilots found ways to engage jets into scenarios, takeoff, landing vulnerability, and high-altitude dives. On November 27, 1944, Major John C. Meyer from the 352nd Fighter Group became an early P-47 jet killer. Diving from 28,000 feet, Meyer's Thunderbolt neared 500 miles per hour. Enough to close on a level, flying Me 6 to dot the jet pilot, confident in speed superiority. Missed the diving P-47 until Meyer's guns opened at 400 yards. Meyer's report noted enemy aircraft disintegrated under fire. Major debris including both engines separated from fuselage. Pilot didn't eject. Concentrated .50 caliber bursts proved more effective than anticipated against jets. By early 1945, specialized P-47M variants targeted German jets and V-1 buzz bombs, with water methanol injection boosting to 2,800 horsepower and refined aerodynamics. These ultimate Thunderbolts hit for 170 miles per hour level at 30,000 feet. Sufficient for conditional jet intercepts. Major George Bostwick, leading the 63rd Fighter Squadron's P-47Ms, down to Me 62s in March 1945. His tactical summary: firepower trumps speed. Jets are quicker but can't turn and can't take punishment. One good burst from our array and they shred like paper. They slow to attack bombers. That's when we pounced. American industrial might's stark demonstration was Operation Bodenplatte, the Luftwaffe's desperate January 1, 1945 bid to smash Allied air power. About 900 German fighters, including remaining elites, surprise attacked Allied airfields across Belgium and Netherlands. At Y3 for airfield near Metz, home to the 365th Fighter Group's P-47s, the raid initially succeeded. Germans destroyed 22 Thunderbolts on the ground plus others. A captured German pilot, brought to command post, pointed at a burning wreck and sneered, "What do you think of that?" Major George Brookings' reply became 9th Air Force legend. He gestured to the field where crews already cleared wrecks and prepped slots for replacements. "By tomorrow, we'll have 40 new ones. How long will it take you to replace the pilots?" The Germans' smirk faded. Within 48 hours, fresh P-47 D-40s from factories filled the strip, airlifted from England bases. The Luftwaffe lost 271 planes and 213 pilots in Bodenplatte, including irreplaceable instructors and leaders. Those gaps couldn't be filled. Americans lost 130 for aircraft across all hit fields, all replaced within a week. The numbers foretold defeat. Republic Aviation built 15,683 P-47s wartime, more than any U.S. fighter. At peak, the Farmingdale, Long Island plant produced 1 hourly around the clock. The Evansville, Indiana facility, erected on empty farmland in 1942, hit 500 monthly by 1944. Each P-47D needed 65,000 parts, 8.4 miles of wiring, 2,000 pounds of aluminum, and 320 pounds of rubber. The engine alone comprised 2,400 precision-machined components, yet American workers, many women seeing aircraft first post-Pearl Harbor, assembled these complex beasts to tolerances exceeding peacetime norms. Ammo production matched each P-47 sortie consumed 3,400.50 cal rounds, with hundreds flying daily. By mid-1944, expenditure topped $10 million monthly. Lake City Arsenal in Missouri, one of several, churned 30 million cartridges per month. Each met .001-inch tolerances for reliable feeding through sensed mechanisms. Fuel consumption staggered. Each Thunderbolt burned 100 gallons hourly cruising, up to 300 in combat with injection. 9th Air Force alone guzzled over 25 million gallons monthly by late 1944, all shipped across Atlantic in mass-produced tankers. Even more impressive than aircraft output was pilot training. By 1944, the U.S. graduated 30,000 pilots yearly from advanced programs, more than Germany trained total wartime. Every P-47 pilot logged at least 400 flight hours pre-combat, including 100 on modern fighters. Late war German pilots entered battle with under 100 total hours. Pilot quality shown in combat. Americans arrived trained in formation, instrument navigation, gunnery, and tactics. They practiced on captured German planes, knowing foe strengths, weaknesses. They mastered aircraft systems via manuals Germans lacked. Lieutenant Eugene Roberts, arriving England September 1944. Exemplified U.S. prep advantage. My log showed for 120 hours. 75 on P-47, I shot-towed targets. Deflection gunnery, studied gun camera films from real fights. On my first mission, I knew exactly what to do. The German I faced had half my experience. It wasn't even fair. In March 1945, Oberstleutnant Joseph Priller, the same pilot who mocked P-47s as pregnant cows 2 years prior, gave an interview to German propagandists boosting morale. Deemed too demoralizing for release, it captured the full German sentiment shift. The Thunderbolt is the finest fighter bomber ever made. Its firepower unmatched. Guns that never jam, overheat, or run dry in typical scraps. It hauls bombs like a medium bomber, launches rockets like field guns, and dogfights when needed. But beyond the machine, it's more. Endless American output. They lose 10, build 20. We lose 1. It's gone forever. Their pilots arrive better trained than our teachers. They have fuel for practice, ammo for drills, spares for everything. We have only courage. Courage without means is delayed defeat. We laughed in 1943. No laughter now. That gunfire sound means death's arrival. Mechanical, precise, relentless. Like all things American, they won through crushing material edge. They beat us not with superior tactics or braver men. They buried us under steel and lead avalanches. By April 1945, the Luftwaffe existed mostly on paper. Fuel shortages grounded most. Veteran pilots dead or captured. Airfields cratered ruins. Even with planes and gas, German flyers faced insoluble dilemmas. Attacking meant facing P-47 swarms controlling from ground to 40,000 feet. Feldwebel Klaus Brethner, a 1945 German trainee, flew one combat sortie before war's end. His Leipzig encounter with P-47s lasted 12 seconds. I saw them dive from above for Thunderbolts in perfect line. I tried turning, but they were too swift. Lead fired from 1,600 feet. My plane shook like hammer blows. Engine blew. Wing sheared. I barely ejected. From chute, I watched them wipe my flight. 6 fighters gone in under a minute. Sky rained burning aluminum and bodies. Psychological impact complete. German pilots developed jabo fever stress symptoms from Thunderbolt encounters. Veterans who fearlessly faced Spitfires and Hurricanes sickened pre-missions against P-47s. The signature rumble triggered panic in ground troops who knew survival meant instant cover. P-47 operational stats defied comprehension. In Europe, 3,750 to German planes downed air-to-air. 3,315 destroyed on ground, 86,000 rail cars wrecked, 9,000 locomotives, 6,000 armored fighting vehicles, 68,000 trucks, 60,000 horse carts. In Pacific, 697 Japanese aircraft air-to-air, 150 on ground, 1,500 vehicles, 150 locomotives, countless barges, ships. Structures. 9th Air Force Thunderbolts alone flew 213,873 sorties, dropped 120,000 tons of bombs, expended 135 million rounds, fired 60,000 rockets. Thunderbolt units achieved 4.6 to 1 air combat loss ratio with lowest attrition among Allied fighter bombers. Behind numbers lay human costs. Luftwaffe lost about 28,000 pilots killed against Western allies. Many fell to American heavy gun barrages. Each loss erased years of training Germany couldn't replace. By war's end, average German fighter pilot had under 30 combat hours, average P-47 pilot over 100 at Oberursel Luftwaffe Interrogation Center. Captured Allied pilots faced German intel. 1945 captured records revealed evolving German assessments of Allied aircraft. The P-47 file, updated throughout war, showed stark reversal. April 1943. Large, unmaneuverable fighter. Inferior to German types in all but dive speed. Machine gun armament inadequate versus cannon-armed fighters. Rating: minimal threat. December 1943. Exceptional high-altitude performance. Remarkable structural toughness. Firepower increasingly troublesome. Pilots showing refined tactics. Rating: serious threat above 25,000 feet. June 1944. Dominant fighter bomber. Outclasses all German types above 20,000 feet. Firepower devastating versus all targets. Build toughness makes downing extremely difficult. Rating: critical threat all altitudes. March 1945, war's premier fighter bomber. Unmatched mix of firepower, reliability, flight traits, pilot quality exceptional, avoiding direct assessment in even fights. In 1985, at a Phoenix, Arizona reunion of German and American fighter pilots, former adversaries met amicably. General Lieutenant Adolf Galland, ex-Luftwaffe fighter chief, was asked about the P-47. His videotaped response captured the full transformation. We made a terrible mistake in 1943. We saw this big, heavy fighter and laughed. Americans don't understand air fighting. We said they built a bomber and called it a fighter. We misunderstood. Americans weren't building a European fighter. They built an American machine focused on output, guns, and survivability. They knew attrition wars favor planes that take hits and deliver crushing blows. They were correct. When I first flew a captured P-47 post-war, I got it. Power immense. It climbed like falling upward. Cockpit comfortable. Visibility superb. Controls crisp. A pilot's plane in armor. But most striking, America built over 15,000 such intricate machines while warring to oceans. Each needed an engine more complex than Germany's best. Yet they produced faster than we could simple fighters. That's when I knew we had no chance. Those guns we called Roosevelt's piano for the sound. Hear it once, never forget. Many friends heard it last. The P-47 didn't just beat the Luftwaffe, it erased it. P-47 design mirrored American industrial ethos, brute engineering backed by boundless resources. Every part overbuilt, redundant, over-engineered. Wing spars bore 40,000 pounds, triple-loaded weight. Engine mount handled 12 grams, control cables duplicated throughout with auto backups. Ammo feed system and engineering marvel. 8 separate boxes, each for 125 rounds, electric motored to prevent jams in maneuvers. Guns electrically heated against high-altitude freeze. Each had independent charging, individually synchronizable, convergence adjustable 150 to 400 yards for pilot-optimized range. Even post-war, some German vets claimed P-47 won by numbers, not quality. German fighters technically superior but outnumbered. Combat logs say otherwise. In equal force engagements, Thunderbolts consistently prevailed. Heavy machine guns, deemed inferior to cannons, proved superior in real conditions. Gun camera analysis explained cannon shells more destructive per hit, demanded precision aiming, and carried limited loads. 120 to 200 typically. P-47 armament created bullet clouds, ensuring hits even with imperfect aim. At typical ranges, a 2-second burst struck fighter-sized targets with at least 20 projectiles, enough for certain kill. Rounds themselves excelled. Us .5 Ocal API used delay fuses for penetration before burst. Incendiary ignited at 700 degrees Fahrenheit, 1500 degrees Celsius, hot enough to torch aluminum frames. German 20mm shells, heavier, often detonated on skin, causing showy but sometimes superficial harm. The P-47 Thunderbolt remains history's heaviest single-engine piston fighter produced. Its 10,000-pound, 4.5-ton empty weight exceeded some twin-engine fighters fully loaded. Engine output surpassed entire WWI bomber squadrons. Armament firepower outmatched infantry platoons. Yet built by thousands, flown by school leavers, maintained in field by quick-trained mechanics. In under 2 years, German views flipped from mockery to terror. The flying milk jug became the Luftwaffe's deadliest foe. Veterans who boldly met Spitfires, Hurricanes, and Yaks whispered of P-47s decades later. At the USAF Museum in Dayton, Ohio, a restored P-47D stands among legendary fighters. Its plaque lists specs and feats. But the real story is a small case with .5 Ocal casings and gun film strip showing a Focke-Wulf 190 shredding midair. Below, a quote from an unnamed 1945 interrogated German pilot. We laughed first sight. Bulky, ugly American fighters that couldn't turn, climb, or fight. We stopped when we realized they didn't need to turn or climb. They just pointed guns and you ceased to exist. Laughter died with our comrades. The P-47 Thunderbolt entered combat as a punchline and ended the war as a destroyer. Meanwhile, 8 synchronized Brownings rewrote air war rules and entombed the Luftwaffe underlead torrents. German flyers chuckled at the clumsy American fighter in April 19 for 3. By May 1945, German flyers had no chuckles left. Thunder rolled and skies were Americus.